Hello everybody, welcome back to Northernlion Plays the Binding of Isaac AFTERBIRTH Plus. If you're wondering why we're on an Isaac run, then you didn't watch the last episode and it shows. Whoops. No, it's an XL floor. Okay, so the streak is still intact, for anybody that was curious about that. However, I mashed the spacebar too much at the end of the last episode, thus putting us in this weird position here. I apologize, but I also recognize that nobody really cares at this point, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. We'll have a fun time here, laughing in the daylight, sitting in the moonlight, having a wonderful time, and etc., etc. Anyway, what's been going on? Not that much. I've been mulling it over in my head for a few weeks. I think I'm going to start watching The Queen's Gambit on Netflix. I think I will. Chibley's been tweeting about it. Apollo's been tweeting about it. Apollo's wanted me to watch The Good Place for a long time. It's nothing against it at all. I hear it's delightful. Maybe the best word, the most common word I would say to describe my reaction to people's reaction to it. 4 seasons is not an enormous commitment, but it's a decent amount, right? That's a potential reroll, but it is pretty good. He also told me to watch Dark, and I honestly thought Dark was a fantastic show. One of the best Netflix originals. We're gonna see how we feel about Bomb Bag. You know what? I think we would benefit from taking Bomb Bag. But Queen's Gambit, it's only 7 episodes. And you know what? I think 7 episodes is the perfect amount to watch. I will say, my mom was over yesterday doing a little babysitting. I think she watched 1.5 seasons of the Great Canadian Baking Challenge. I came out at various parts throughout the day, and it was like, our newest 10 contestants. And then as the day went on, it was like, 6 contestants remain. The final 2 on our 2-part finale. And I was like, man, she crunched through those episodes. I'm not, like, judging. It was extremely helpful for her to be over. I'm just also saying, we've been chewing through a lot of Netflix lately. I don't want to go off on cooking shows again, because it gets me in trouble sometimes. I'm kind of over food shows. I'm not. Oh, you'll fool! I gotta admit, my hands were not even on the shoot keys there. I was talking with my hands. I'm kind of over food shows. It takes something special. The best thing a food show could do for me is be set in Vancouver. If there's an episode in Vancouver, I've said it before, I'll say it again, I'll watch it, because it's more of like a local interest piece than like, oh man, this is amazing. The other thing I'll say is that I think I would just love to see a show once where they went like, this is trash. You know what I mean? I've got nothing but respect for Guy Fieri in many ways. I just wish there was, like, if there was Too Hot for TV versions of Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, where sometimes he was just like, you know what, please stop the cameras, this is horrible. This is truly disgusting. What are there, there's like 7 fried eggs on this burger? That's too much. You guys have taken it too far. You trying to kill me? I got a family, you know? That would make me more likely to watch more Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. Or any Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. But I understand it's kind of like, it's just feel-good programming, right? There's nothing wrong with that. Nobody's watching Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives to be like, you know, oh, let's find the best restaurant in, you know, Topeka, Kansas. They're watching it to be like, ooh, a burger with 3 different cheeses on it? Well, I never, you know? I understand. I will say, one of the, and I have talked about this before, but, so this is like 5 years ago. Kate and I moved, not to the current place, but to the last place we lived in. And we were so exhausted at the end of our moving day, we went to this sushi restaurant that we had never been to before, and it took us like an hour and a half to get our food. If you're a long-time viewer, this is the same anecdote as when, like, You know, we were wondering why it took so long to make the food, because it's literally raw fish sliced and rolled. I'm not saying it takes no time, but, you know, you don't have to cook it. But, you know, Kate's dad went up and was like, hey, is our food coming soon? And they literally said, if you wanted your food faster, you should have ordered takeout, which is a weird, very weird take in my opinion. That, like, you know, your dine-in customers are like garbage. Anyway, I should have known something was awry, because as soon as we walked into that sushi restaurant, they were playing diners, drive-ins, and dives on the TV. What kind of restaurant is playing footage of other restaurants on the television? It's just kind of, like, I'm not saying it's weird. Well, actually, no, that's exact. It's just kind of, it's not like, oh, it's advertising another restaurant, because, you know, if you're at a sushi restaurant in Vancouver, it's not like you're going to be like, hey, get me a flight to Biloxi, Mississippi, you know? Like, you're locked in at that point. But at the same, it's just strange that you would be eating sushi and then be watching a guy eat a hamburger, you know? Like, just put on some sports or something. I just want to grill. Anyway, I will say, and this, I haven't told this anecdote in a while, so I'm willing to dredge up ancient history. While we were eating, a group of people walked in. There was like 8 or 9 people, and the front of house staff was like, hey, it'll just be like 10 or 15 minutes. Is that all right? I swear to God, believe you, or believe me, you may not, but it happened. I made eye contact from my table with the guy who was speaking with the hostess, and I kind of like shook my head and made my eyes really wide, and he said, you know, I think we're gonna go someplace else. And I gave him a little nod. I felt like I did a great service there. It's not, you know, oh, local streamer hampers small business owner. I mean, if you can't, you know, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's utilitarian. I saved 8 to 10 people from having a terrible night at the restaurant. And then on top of that, those 8 to 10 people, if they told 5 people each, then, you know, that restaurant could have been destroyed. So if anything, I was saving the restaurant from itself. That's the way I choose to think about it. And if you disagree, then whatever. I was at a sushi restaurant in Vancouver, and they didn't serve me my sashimi, and I was like, whatever. Jumper cables, that's pretty good. This run's got what it takes. I'm just hoping we don't lose our deal with the devil chance here. Although it would be nice to have a reroll in advance of it as well. I bet with jumper cables, yikes. It's a calculated risk, right? With jumper cables, we probably do stand a chance to get a pretty fast reroll. But the flip side of it is every room that we go to gives us a chance to get hit. And if we get hit, we lose that easy deal with the devil setup. That was so spooky. Just a couple more rooms, I think. Anyway. It's just a weird thing for a restaurant to be playing. It's like, I got a restaurant. What should I play in it? Shows about restaurants. I did go to a ramen restaurant once in San Francisco. I forget what it was called. It was called like Men Show or something like that. It was, and in true San Francisco fashion, there were people that were in line, because it took us like an hour and a half to get into the restaurant, I think, because it was like, you know, it was a hot one. And it was worth it, for the record, at least if you got nothing else to do. We might as well go through with this now. It was really good. But there were people in line who were not actually eating. They just went to TaskRabbit, and they waited. They basically got paid to wait in line for people whose time is too valuable to wait in line, but they still wanted to eat at the restaurant. So they got paid like $20 to wait in line. Anyway, long story. It's an interesting city. There's a lot to like and a lot to kind of make fun of, but you know that's true for Vancouver as well. There's no denying that. And they were playing videos of noted Japanese YouTuber and prodigious eater Kinoshita Yuka. I thought that was kind of a cool brand synergy. Pentagram, pretty sick here. Honestly, I think we at least want to check this. And now that actually changes the game in a huge way. Because we don't mind dying and coming back to life. I'm not going to say that it's like ideal yet, because we don't know, but we at least want to give it a shot. We need to go deeper. Use it. Re-roll it. Duality. I think I'm just going to go down a floor. I think the longer we can live with this half-heart, the more likely it is that we're going to be able to create a situation where we can get a bunch of demon hearts in the future, right? Like, we don't need to respawn as Dark Judas right away. I think we did the right thing. Now, we may die and respawn as Dark Judas right away, but we don't have to. That's the difference. Small rock. Very, very, very nice. Very nice. Now that's something everyone can enjoy. Okay, we're dead. We're back. The stats are incredible, don't get me wrong. The stats are beautiful and unbelievable. But we did... We do have a little risk here. The dream is that we've got the guppy... not guppy, sorry. It's not even close to guppy. You're going to laugh. The dream is that when we go to the shop, there's a bunch of spirit hearts. Who brought guppy into it? I don't know. You brought guppy into it for some reason. I don't know why you're always talking about guppy. Anyway, today is a Wednesday. What's been up? You know how it is. Doing a lot of partying. I'm in a real party mood right now. Just kidding, we have a newborn. And a job to do. And also the pandemic. But anyway, we don't need to get into all that rigmarole, you know? Okay, now this is it's not the best reason to have taken some damage. I think that much is pretty clear. That's very helpful. That's a situation where I will say, you know what? I think maybe we got slightly carried there. I'm not afraid to admit it. And I'm very thankful to have seen that Spirit Heart things. I think would have been fine regardless. I guess time will tell. But it was a touch spicy and we would have at least been on guard. Like Madonna in Die Another Day. What does that reference mean? Oh, clearly you haven't seen Die Another Day, the James Bond film starring Pierce Brosnan, in a long time. Madonna's in it. She plays a fencing instructor. Thus, the pun on guard. It's not a good movie. It's probably the worst James Bond movie I've ever seen. I haven't seen all of them, to be fair, but I've got a weird distinction, okay? I have seen a few James Bond movies in theaters. I have never seen a good James Bond movie in theaters. I saw in 8th grade, we definitely do want this, Die Another Day came out. I saw it with a few friends of mine. It was so packed. It was like November 2001, I think. We had to sit in like the super front row. And when I was watching it, I kid you not, I was like, this is the greatest movie ever made. I was like, what more could you want out of a film than this? It's crazy. In hindsight, not actually a good movie. I was just, 12. Yeah, we will. I had the option. I was going out with a friend of mine. It was my first year of university. We went to the movie theater. And she was like, hey, I'm going to let you pick the movie. What do you want to see? Casino Royale or the Will Ferrell, Maggie Gyllenhaal movie Stranger Than Fiction? In my head, I made a cardinal error. I think we're just going to leave. In my head, I went, I want to see Casino Royale. But I bet she wants to see the Will Ferrell, Maggie Gyllenhaal movie Stranger Than Fiction. Otherwise, why would she suggest it? So I was like, let's see Stranger Than Fiction. I gotta be honest, Stranger Than Fiction is a really good movie. I'm glad we saw it. I did eventually later see Casino Royale, and I was like, this movie is probably better than Stranger Than Fiction, but they're both great, don't get me wrong. So I skipped that one. But then I was like, hey, I would tell my friends the story about how I didn't see Casino Royale, and I was like, I gotta be there opening night for Quantum of Solace. Big mistake. Not a very good movie. Not horrendous, but just kind of a boring James Bond movie. I hate to say it, but it's like, And the Daniel Craig James Bonds, like, I like him as James Bond, don't get me wrong. I'm just wondering, like, why is it so hard to make, like, 2 good ones in a row? It's kind of, like, the Pierce Brosnan ones are kind of in the same boat, to some extent. GoldenEye is, like, insanely good. It has a case for being one of the best Bonds. I think for people in my generation, it might be the best Bond. I think it's like that, Casino Royale, and Skyfall from our generation, quote unquote. I'm gonna re-roll that. I want to fish for something greater. And then, you know, of the ones that are, you know, earlier, like Goldfinger's really good, Dr. No One from Russia with Love are really good, but, you know, if the ones that are a little bit more modern, like GoldenEye is up there. Tomorrow Never Dies is okay, and The World Is Not Enough is truly bad. By adult standards. If you, like me, if you watched it when you were like 13, then you're like, oh, this is pretty sick. And by the way, such clever wordplay. I thought Christmas only comes once a year. That's not what Pierce Brosnan sounds like. He would not have gotten the Bond role if he sounded like that. I thought Christmas only came once a year. Anyway. Sorry, Chiblee. Sure, why not? We'll take rubber cement. Die Another Day, horrendous. You know, they kind of, like the Brosnan movies, they started amazing. I'm not afraid to say it. I think that the Pierce Brosnan, or GoldenEye specifically, is just a great James Bond movie. Great action movie in general. Might as well get the charge and then bounce. And then they kind of just, like, Tomorrow Never Dies is markedly worse, but The World Is Not Enough is even worse than that, and Die Another Day is almost, I don't want to say unfathomable, but it almost crosses the threshold of, like, it's no longer bad, it's so bad it's good, but, you know, it really depends on how you feel about movies like that in general. And the Daniel Craig Bonds are weird. Like, Casino Royale is sublime, and then the Quantum of Solace is just sort of like a snooze. And then Skyfall, I'll be honest with you, Skyfall is pretty great, but it's not my cup of tea. I much prefer Casino Royale to Skyfall, but I recognize the majesty, you know, and the pageantry in Skyfall as well. And then I will admit I haven't seen Spectre, but I heard that, you know, much like Quantum of Solace, Spectre was just kind of like a head scratcher where you're like, I just don't, like, why is it bad? You got Christoph Waltz, and yet the movie's no good. I'm hoping, and this is maybe naive of me, and the production has been mired with a bunch of, I mean, COVID as well as other stuff, but I'm hoping that, you know, No Time to Die or whatever the heck the new Bond is called actually turns out to be pretty sweet. You know, I like Daniel Craig. It's an odd-numbered film in the sense that, you know, if we consider Casino Royale to be Daniel Craig #1, we're gonna go deal with the devil for sure. For sure. Shall we? No. We shan't. We'll try this. I was hoping to get HP, but I guess we could have gone back for the reroll, but whatever. We just gotta be a little concerned about our Spirit Hearts, but I think it was worth taking piercing shots for sure. But anyway, I love Rami Malek, you know, which is weird because I don't think I've ever seen him in anything except Until Dawn. I've never seen Mr. Robot. I didn't watch Bohemian Rhapsody. Rather just catch it on the radio. Or sometimes not at all. But I don't know, I just say I like him, you know? Something about him. When I see him, I go, look at that guy. I like that guy. What's he from? All this stuff I haven't seen before. To all the films I've never seen, but we definitely should have taken Restock first here, but still good no matter what. Honestly, I think we'll take Wiggle Worm for the sweet rate of fire increase. And I think now is probably the time to just get, like, legitimately concerned about your HP and just act like you've been there before, you know? Forgot we could hold both trinkets. You love to see it. Things you love to see. It. What is it? Anyway. That's my thoughts on James Bond. I think I watched all or almost all of the Sean Connery James Bonds when I was in college. I'm going to give you, and this is not going to endear me necessarily, but I think a lot of people are going to agree with this, and a lot of people need to hear it. James Bond is one of those classic franchises that gets too much credit, in my opinion. There's a lot of Bond films I very much enjoy, but at the same time, the fact that it's venerated as such a classic franchise when, you know, half of the movies in it are not very good. Like, entire decades of Bond films are essentially lost because they're just not very good at all. Everybody likes, I guess, the decade that they grew up with, but still. I'm just saying, okay? I'm not trying to ruffle any feathers, but, like, when you look at, like... I'm trying to think of a good example. You know, like the Before Sunset, Before Sunrise, you know, trilogy. Every single one of those movies is sublime, right? If Richard Linklater was like, hey, we're going to make another Before... Hey, it's After Lunch, you know? You would be like, I'm excited for this. I want to see what he does with this because he's earned it. Sure, I'll take the tractor beam. You know who I bet wishes they had a tractor beam? Farmers. And farmers' mums, for that matter. Anyway, we have fun here. But, like, Bond is 50-50, right? Like, of the Sean Connery movies, like, the first, like, 4 or 5 are all pretty great. But then he gets into some weird stuff. Like, the one where he goes to Japan is just... I mean, it was a different era, but also, like... It's not even just kind of offensive by modern sensibilities. It's just sort of like... What? Like, they were running out of ideas, clearly. I know I hate to say it, but it's kind of like Star Wars, dude. I've come around a little bit on Star Wars because, again, I was kind of hesitant to in the way that I approached The Mandalorian. But as The Mandalorian has gone on, I actually think that show is very good. It gets if it mattered to you at all, which it really shouldn't, it gets the me seal of approval. That hurt. And I'm kind of hopeful. I don't know if this will actually happen. Like, let me put it this way. I'm not necessarily against fan service. Okay? I'll say it so you don't have to. I went pretty hard on the Marvel films, right? The Marvel films, especially Endgame, are fan service. But it's fan service that, in my opinion, was earned. You know, not just because I like it, but because of the fact that, like, you know, I think they really did a good job, especially in Endgame, of building to... like, one super, like... what's the word I'm looking for? Like, it wasn't fan service like, look at this, Black Widow bent over and you can see the line of her panties. It was like, you know... They had laid the seeds in, like, previous films, and then they had one enormous, like, champagne bottle payoff that was... that I think if you enjoyed the franchise, you're like that. Most people tend to believe it was done pretty well. Let me put it that way. Star Wars, on the other hand, you know, I'm not going to say the fan service is always bad, but I'm hopeful that, you know, the seeming take that people have now, like the majority or plurality take of, you know, the side stories are better. I'm hopeful that leads to more kind of like standalone stories in the Star Wars universe, instead of like, and then Luke's nephew, you never heard about him before, but he's a very powerful kid, and he's ripping stuff up, and then, is that the Emperor's music? Dun, 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 dun. Like, I'm hopeful that maybe instead it would be like, hey, here's a story about, it's just a garbage man in Mos Eisley. It's just a guy in Mos Eisley living his daily life and trying to do right by his kids, you know? And his kids, I don't know, they got tentacles coming out of their heads or whatever. You can, you know, industrial light and magic it up however you choose. I'm just saying. Like, Rogue One and The Mandalorian are probably the two most beloved Star Wars properties of recent memory. We're just gonna chill here. I think this is an easy win now. And we will win easily. There is a distinction to be made. I'm sorry. I just wanted to get off of the Star Wars discussion because we keep having it. It's like, how many times can you restate your opinion on the same thing? The only new information is that, you know, I've seen all of The Mandalorian now, and I get it. You know what? I think we should go deal with the Angel here, just because it's free. And it, you know, probably is not going to make an enormous difference one way or the other, but might as well snag a couple of free items. We want to take this, and we want to reroll this. Dude, that was actually an insanely great haul. That was lovely. That was lovely. Anyway. But now I need new stuff to watch, dude. Probably watch the Queen's Gambit. I don't know, maybe. It depends. It's much easier to just commit to, like, watching a movie than to watch a TV show right now. Will you give me a payout? You won't give me a payout. It's fine. Like, I'm not upset or whatever, but I am a little annoyed and I hate you. If we just drop this down here. Worth it. Well worth it. I think, here's a controversial take for you. I think that in the new Isaac DLC, they should include a forfeit button, but for the game. Like, obviously the player can forfeit whenever they choose by just quitting and never returning. I want to see a forfeit button where the game goes, you know what, there's no chance I'm going to get you, we're going to give you this one and save you a little bit of time. I don't know if I would turn that function on, because honestly, it's when some of my best banter happens, is when there's... Because when you have game stuff to talk about, you could be like, you know what, my brain's a little sore, let's take a 10-minute break. And just be like, oh, I could really use a Tears upgrade right now. When the run is good, you gotta constantly keep the hamsters running on the hamster wheel. It's dangerous. It's tough. You never know what's gonna spill out. The Last Jedi is the best modern Star Wars. Hey, I told you, keep that on the down low. People aren't ready for that one yet. I kid. Like, it's what I believe, but I kid as well. To deflect. I think that would be an interesting mechanic. How would they do it? I don't know. It's just, I'm just spitballing, dude. I don't know, they got quantum computing. Can't you just answer, like, any question about how they would do anything with quantum computing? That's how I choose to think about it. It's like whenever I bring up a science question, Twitch chat always responds in the same way. Entropy. Like, no matter what the... Like, so, this, I mean, it's kind of embarrassing to admit, of course. I have a 4-year degree in biology. I don't know what people think that a 4-year degree in biology actually, like, gets you. I'll tell you that in my experience, you know, essentially what it qualifies you for is grad school. You learn some laboratory techniques, you learn, you know, a respect for the scientific method and, you know, how to interface with the library, look up scientific literature, do statistics to understand, you know, like the burden of proof. It will forever make you a snob, like, and skeptical. Whenever there's, like, a media report about, like, hey, we found, like, a cure for a disease, you're like, well, I actually read the abstract of the study, and it says that in 4 of 3,000 rats this works, so it has not passed statistical significance yet. But I don't really know what entropy is. It's something to do with the third law, or the second law of physics, right? It's like your room will never get cleaner. It'll always get messier, something like that. Anyway, for now, thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, click the like button. Helps out a great deal. Of course, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. For now, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. See ya!